So Riverside gives us this weird 6-second countdown. I don't know where that came from, but whatever. Keeps us ready. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. I have a very cool interview with a very cool woman today to share with you. And I'm going to do my best to honor her name here, but please forgive me in advance. Brigitta Hoeferle.
Hey, that was good.
Yeah, all right. We practiced like 10 times, so I got somewhat close. So thank you for your grace and humility with me. But welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Kevin. Thanks for having me. It is a beautiful day here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I hope that it's a beautiful day for you guys, wherever you're at.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Well, I'm super pumped to get to unpack all the greatness that you are and you bring. And I know you're a master coach, a CEO. I know you've got some NLP background. You started a Montessori school, and I think that is really cool because I think that would have been something good for me when I was a little Kevin, as opposed to traditional schooling. It would have been better for the teachers too, probably. So I'd love to really go anywhere you want to go. So tell us a little bit about you, and let's just kick it off that way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you know what? Now that you mentioned the Montessori school, I'm out of the day-to-day operations. I founded it in 2002, and we started with one child, which was my own. I now have 2 children. The school has a lot more. We are now at 125 students, and I just got a text message this morning from the director and the family that runs the school with a picture of our first middle school classroom. This is the first year that we have a middle school classroom. It started out with one child that was 18 months at the time. Well, she was younger than that. But when we moved to the States, she was 18 months. And it came out of, just like you said, Kevin, right? When I went through my studies, I have 2 degrees, a marketing degree and a social pedagogy / education science degree. And we learned about Maria Montessori. And I'm like, and if you ever study, to become a teacher or anything like that, you kind of highlight the different educational methodologies. Montessori is one of them. We spend about an hour, and I'm like, wait, time out. You're telling me that's me, back in school, university. You're telling me that there's a different methodology in teaching children that honors the child where they're at and that allows the child to actually learn by their own insights. Why the heck did I not go to a school like that?
Oh my gosh, yes. I know. That's exactly how I felt when I heard about this. I'm like, wait a second. We didn't have to slow down or go too fast or whatever the case may be. And we could actually be creative and be taught what that means to us and how to make our own decisions. Like, wow. How helpful would that be?
Mind blown, right? So, and that's when I started looking more into the Montessori method. And I said, when I have children, I was 20, 21. When I have children sometime down the road, I want my children to go to Montessori school. I want them to have a different experience in school than I did, right? I'm putting school in air quotation marks because school for me was no fun. And if you'd ask my teachers today, they'd probably still say, yeah, school with Brigitta was not fun. It was like pushing a bear up trees. And because no one is alike. And yet our traditional school, and I don't want to poo-poo on our traditional school, but our traditional school is a box. And they're trying to put people in a box so they can, all ship the box in the same direction, where each individual in that box doesn't need to go in the same direction. They don't learn the same way. They don't need to go in the same direction. They don't go the same pace. So why put them all in the same box and follow one teacher, right? So it made no sense to me. And then I was like, Montessori, yes, that's the way to go. And out of necessity, I created the Montessori school, and I was working in marketing at the time when I created the school. So yeah.
That's so awesome. What's the name of your school?
The Montessori School of Cleveland. I know, very creative.
Yeah, hey, well, that paints the picture, right? We know where it is. We know what it is. I think that satisfies more than a lot of names of companies and organizations. You have no idea what that is. But I think that's really, really important for people to question things. Just because something's been a certain way for a long time does not make it effective or the right way. And, like education has evolved very, very little, and since it started, and in the U.S. at least, in those little red school buildings, and all the kids were in the same room, and now they separate them in different classes. That's about the evolution of education right there, and that's wild. Like we have all these multidimensional beings, humans, right? And we're all prolific and different, and encouraged to be ourselves, except for be yourself just like everybody else, and then that's how you win. And that's so dangerous. How
Yeah.
does that encourage innovation? How does that encourage people stepping into their gifts?
Yeah. And it keeps us in that box of comparing ourselves to others. And so,
yes.
through the work that I did with the Montessori school and the kids, I learned, wait a minute, because, the school's been around now for 20 years. I'm like, wait a minute. It's the children that are innocent. They're innocent by nature, right? Eventually, whatever their programming is, because you talked about NLP, and I want to go into that a little bit. We all come with a program. Well, not in our default factory settings, but when we grow up, the people around us have an impact on us. And as little ones, we take in all the information without any filter, and that becomes our programming, especially from teachers, parents, anyone that we as children kind of put on a pedestal and see as authority. We take in information just at face value, because as kids, we don't have a reference point. It's just face value. It is what is. So in the work with children, I realized children are innocent by nature. It's the adults around them that have an impact on them and either support them to thrive or screw them up, to be really, simple and blunt. And that's when I said, there's an opportunity here. If we really, who was it? Michael Jackson. I believe the children are our future. Was that Whitney Houston? I always get the song lyrics.
I think it was Michael Jackson.
I'm good.
But it could have been both.
I believe the children are our future. Anyway, you know the song. You're welcome. You'll have it for the rest of the day stuck in your head. If we really believe that the children are our future, then we got to do, and I'm pointing to myself as an adult, we got to do the work. We got to put in the work to be a good model to these kids.
Yeah.
And that because we as adults, we come equipped with our own baggage from our upbringing that we got handed off from our parents in their upbringing. And eventually we got to realize what's going on, realize what's in that box of, or in that sack of baggage, and kind of sift through and go, time to clean house, right? This is no longer working. This is no longer working. This is no longer working. I want to replace it with this, this, and this, so I can have an impact on my kid. And that's how we create the future.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you see that blocks people from having that awareness that maybe there is a better way, instead of just doing, what they were trained to do by their models?
The biggest block is, you hear people talk about change, and everyone's like, yeah, but it's got to change. Everything's got to change. And everyone's really loud on social media or with their friends. Yeah, and that's got to change, and this is not working, and that's got to change, and this is BS, and right. And then it comes down to, okay, so what are you going to do? How are you going to change? And everyone's like, oh, let me know. I don't want to change. Change is hard. But I can tell all of you guys to change, but I don't want to change.
Yeah, but that's also because they've gotten that model from their parents that change is hard, right? Or society or Facebook or whatever. I'm like, man, change is not hard. Staying the same is hard. To be the same person year after year, that is very hard, because like personal inflation eats you up, right? The world still revolves around you, just not the way you want it to revolve around you.
Choose your heart. Either way, it's going to be hard in some way if you decide it's going to be hard.
Yeah, but you know what? We're humans. We can do hard things. We've evolved, right?
Exactly. And we have these tools. But and you asked me a really good question, Kevin. I want to come back to that. How do we get people to that point? Well, they first got to be in such pain to actually look at themselves and go, oh, it's actually not them, it's me. And what do I have to do? Because if we look at a pie chart, you might have seen, imagine a big pie. And there's one little sliver of the pie. Imagine you're cutting out just a tiny little, how you're on when you go eat a pie with her and she says, I just want a tiny little sliver. Just think of the tiny little sliver of pie, right? And then you
How do
give her
people
the
do
big
that?
piece and
I
she'll
don't
eat it
know.
all. Yeah. you give them a bigger piece and they'll eat it all, right?
Yeah.
But imagine that little sliver of pie in that whole, big piece of pie that is what we know / what we don't know, the knowledge pie, right? One big circle. Little sliver is, this is what we know that we know. This is knowledge that I have by going to school, by becoming a Grandmaster of NLP, by being a master educator, directors of a Montessori school, blah, blah, blah. These are all the things that I know because I've studied them, I practice them, I implement them daily. Then there's another tiny little sliver that is in that whole pie, in that whole circle, that is, here are the things that I know I don't know yet. Because in my studies and in my implementation, in my daily life, I become aware of, I don't know that yet. I don't know, to this day, I do not know how to build a website on WordPress, but I don't need to know that. I know that I don't know that. I have someone that does that, right? So that's the other tiny little sliver. The things that I know that I don't know yet, then you can decide, do I want to know that or do I hire someone that knows that? The biggest piece of the pie, imagine like a Pac-Man, right? That's the biggest piece of the pie because we took out the mouth of the Pac-Man of the what we know and what we don't know. That is the things that we don't even know that exist for us to learn. These are the things that we don't know. And some people might say that's bliss. I disagree with that. So going on that journey of what else do I need to know to make not just my life better, but my kids' life better, and therefore the future better, because there will be a future if I like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and also it's what we think we know, that just ain't so, right? Or however you want to say that, that's really dangerous. And that's the ego just wants to know everything, and if it doesn't know, it thinks it has to know. And like I say it all the time. It took me 3 decades to learn how to say I don't know and mean it. Right? From 15 to 30 years old, I was like, I know. I didn't know anything, right? But I acted like I did, and that's so hard. Because I was just stuck in the comparison game. You used that word earlier, compare, right? And I was, compare myself to other people, and I feel inferior, usually, maybe superior, but it's really just inferiority, anyways. And that's such a disconnect. And then you're like, one man, one woman band trying to do it all. And like you just said, if I'm building a website, we're all in trouble, right? I could shut down the internet, I think, if I did that. But you know what? I'm smart enough to find people who are really good at that, because that's not my genius, and that's okay. And
right.
Wow, gratefully there are people who are fantastic at that. But you touched on it a little bit already, but I want to go deeper on NLP. Could you, first off, I've heard of NLP for years, right? Since the first time I read Tony Robbins, right? I remember he talked about it, and I went and learned some more about it, and I think it's fascinating. But I don't know that I've ever heard of a Grandmaster, so I'm really curious. I think I know what that means. I know what a Grandmaster in chess is, so I'm gonna use some parallel there. But it means you're extremely accomplished and one of the best, quite possibly in the world, at what you do. So I'd love to know if that's anywhere close to accurate.
Yes. So first of all, for the ones that don't know what NLP is, and I agree with you, Tony Robbins is a master in NLP, and he's also a master at he only uses like 2 or 3 strategies. He's really good at pattern interrupts. He's like a master in pattern interrupts. He's really good at modeling, and he's really good at future pacing. And I want to come back to those 3 strategies because these are some of the strategies that we teach in NLP. So NLP, what is it? Neuro-linguistic programming. I talked about programming earlier. I want to come to that third piece in that whole mouthful. Neuro is your brain. It's your operating system. It's where you store the information that's coming at you. And we have 3 million bits of information flying at us at any given moment. 3 million bits of information. Now, if we would decipher all of those 3 million bits of information, we would freeze, right? our brain would go, right, red button, shut down, nothing works because I'm just now overwhelmed. So in order for our brain to continue to function, for us to continue function, we must delete, distort, and generalize. So our brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes information so it can take in all of that, or take in some of that information. It deletes what, right now, what I'm deleting and what you're probably deleting is you're either standing, so you're not even feeling the floor pressing against your feet, or you're sitting, you're not even feeling your butt hitting the chair or the cushion that you're sitting in. So that is information that you don't need, so you just delete it, right? Until I brought attention to it, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize that I was feeling that. At the same time, you're listening to my voice, there might be the ambulance passing by outside, you're deleting that. Some of the things that I'm saying, you have no reference point. You're distorting it because you're trying to make meaning of it, and you're putting it in a file somewhere in your filing cabinet, aka your brain, aka your neuro, to make sense of it, to make meaning of it, because humans were meaning-making machines. So neuro is your operating system. Linguistic, if you see me, I'm pointing to my mouth, and linguistic communication is so much more than just words, right? If you ever heard of the Moravian communication model by Albert Moravian, he deciphered communication and put it in 3 categories: words, tonality, and body language. And he deciphered high emotional language. And I don't know, Kevin, have you heard of the Albert Moravian communications model?
I have not.
You have not. Okay, so good. Words, tonality, body language. In a percentage, and here we go with the pie chart again, how much do you think, what's the percentage of words in our communication? How much does it weigh, or what's the percentage in that whole piece?
Oh gosh, it's so low. I've seen that stat somewhere, and gosh, it was like, I feel like it was even single digit low, but I really don't remember. I'm gonna guess like 8%.
Yeah, it's 7%. Yeah, it's 7%.
Wow.
So our
That's so
words
crazy.
are 7%. I know. Our body language is 55%. And our tonality is 38%. So words 7%, tonality.
Can you say that one again, the tonality? Because I think a lot of people miss that, the tone that they're using. Could you just go deep on that really quick for me?
Absolutely. So the tonality, the words is what we say. The tonality is how we say it, right? The cadence, the volume, the pitch, the silence, the pitch, cadence, tonality, volume, right? And it's interesting because I did a training the other day for like 30 real estate agents, and one person asked me, so what is the best pitch, what is the best tonality that I can have to build rapport with others? And I said, this is not a lesson in what are the best words, what is the best tonality, what's the best body language, because what we established earlier, we're all individuals. There is no right or wrong. When you can decipher, when you're able to see, hear, and feel where the other person is coming from, you can adjust your own communications, your own linguistics to them, right? I'll give you an example. When I have a client call me and I get to meet them for the first time, and they're very timid, and they're very, very quiet, maybe not so confident. Do you think that I can just come in my energetic Brigitta, personality, big personality out there, and just meet them with my personality? Do you think I'm going to sell that deal or close that deal?
I think they might hang up on you.
Yeah, they're probably going back to bed and putting their cups over their head and going, I'm not coming out today. I don't want to go back out. Right. So there is no, and I'm saying that to make the point, there is no right or wrong tonality. There are no right or wrong body language or words. There is a awareness of how you can meet the other person where they're at. Hey, Kathy, how are you? How can I support you today? And then shut up and listen, right? So that's the tonality part. That's the word part. That's the body language part. I love to jump on Zoom or, back in the days it was Skype. It's kind of outdated. I don't know if Skype is still around.
I think it went the way of MySpace.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, that's funny. Or FaceTime, right? So I love to see people not just in the way that they talk and then the way that they be, but also their surrounding. It gives me information. And in order to decipher that information, you first got to be aware, how do you decipher? What does it mean? So that's the linguistic part, that very long-winded L of the NLP linguistic part. The programming part is the part where a lot of people go, okay, I'm out. This is, NLP is a manipulation tool because you're trying to program me, because you're trying to sell me something that I don't want to buy, blah, blah, blah. Well, Kevin, I got to tell you, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have gone to YouTube University and learned NLP and misused it, because NLP is a communications methodology. It is the meta program of our communication, and we all have NLP within us, but we've gotten so good as humans to misuse the success patterns that NLP has. So imagine we just finished our training center, and I'm pointing out this window because it's right up there. It's a big ass, I hope I can say that, building.
You can say whatever you want.
Center.
There's no rules on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. Yeah.
What did I want to say with it? Oh yeah. So we built, I just said I needed to look this way and it needs to be pretty and we need to have all of this set up. There were a lot of people with hammers and, nail guns and things like that. A hammer is a tool, and a hammer can be used to build the whole training center or school or a neighborhood library, which I love. We have one. A hammer can also be used to destroy. I've seen people that have put hammers on people's heads. That's horrific. That's not what the tool was intended to be used for. And our communication is exactly the same way. And when we know how we think, how we talk, and what we say and not say, because body language is things that we don't say, but we do say them. It's nonverbal communication. Then we can become aware of the great programming that we might have that shows up in a great way in our behavior or our work ethic or the way that we deal with our spouse or our boss or our team members or our kids or whoever. And then we can also become aware of the programs that are holding us back, the programs that are not working. Like someone asked me the other day, so what would be a program, Brigitta, that you see when you work with people? And one that often reoccurs, not just in women, but also men, is when the going gets tough in business, may it be as an employee or a business owner, and the to-do list or the responsibilities just get so overwhelming and overbearing. What they often do, or what that person often does, is they go somewhere to the fridge or to social media to do something that they know how to do: eat, scroll, drink, because it gives them a feeling of, I got this. So they go into a pattern of feeling good about themselves, but they don't get the stuff done. And then at the end of the day, they don't have the results to show for what they actually wanted to get done that day. That is a pattern. When we can become aware of that pattern, we can actually tweak pieces in that pattern. We're not going to just take the whole pattern and go, oh, that pattern, we're going to throw it out the window. No, we're going to look at the pattern. We're going to decipher it. We're going to decode it. And then we're going to change a few things in between as pieces. Think of, dominoes. If you push the first domino over, all the others follow. You want to take like the fifth domino in the line and, maybe domino number 37 and exchange it. And now run that pattern again and see how the outcome is going to be different. Part of that makes me a Grandmaster of NLP. Being able to decipher deletions, distortions, and generalizations in people's verbal and nonverbal communication, and then know how to change those little pieces rather than just saying, oh, you're broken, you got to be fixed. No one's broken, no one's got to be fixed. Some things are just not working anymore. And a lot of that programming comes from that imprint phase when we were little. They heard somewhere that, hey, if you don't know how to do that, it's okay to go to the fridge. Or they might have seen how mom modeled, if I don't know how to do that, I'm just going to go, grab me a drink or whatever it is. We are being modeled all the time. So choose who you want to model.
And I think to take that a step further, it's like, who are you being a model for too with your behavior? Because somebody's watching you and learning how to act from you. And it's not just your kids, it's, friends, society, church, whatever. And, you gotta, Gandhi said it best, right? Be the change you want to see. And so I'm sure you get this quite often. It's like people that I want to do this thing, or I want to not do this thing. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. They usually, I want the people around me not to do this thing, and I'm like, okay, are you doing that? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, how can you expect, people around you to, treat you a certain way if you're not treating them that way? Because, you're modeling the behavior you want, and people don't, consciously know that. I didn't know that for the longest time. It's like I was watching TV and guy on TV goes, if you run to a jerk in the morning, that stinks. But if you run to jerks all day long, you should probably look in the mirror because you're probably the jerk. And now that day, I'd seen a lot of jerks. I was like, oh my God, dude, he's talking to me. And I was the jerk. And, it's like I kept attracting jerk situations to me because I was modeling that behavior. And I'm sure that probably sounds familiar too.
I'll tell you yes, I'll tell you a very vulnerable story, because people ask me, so Brigitta, how did you get from being a Montessori directress and building a Montessori school to coaching people and, training and all of that and NLP? When I first built the school and came to the US, and that's like a 3-hour story all in itself. And I built the school here with my husband, and our little daughter was close to 18 months at the time. I built the school. I was great in, hiring staff, getting people really excited. My first money went to become a member of the Chamber of Commerce because I realized, you got to be visible, you got to be out there and plug into other businesses in order to start generating income. So I did all of that. Great visionary characteristics that I have, great way, Brigitta, tap yourself on the shoulder. And I had all of this great staff in building the business, and I knew, how to build a business. I mean, here's this cocky 30-some-year-old coming from Germany, and 2 degrees, I'm German. I mean, all the great stuff comes from Germany. And Kevin, I was cocky, and there's no other way that I can say it. And with that attitude, I went out and I got great staff, and then they left. Now, that's painful all in itself. Montessori Schools in Tennessee, this is Cleveland, Tennessee, not Ohio. Okay, it's the second largest Cleveland. There were no Montessori teachers anywhere close. So they were great. There were teachers, and I vetted them, and then I paid for their 3-year diploma to take their 3-year Montessori diploma so they can be a certified Montessori teacher in my school. So that's a $3,500 to $4,000 investment in each teacher. Right now we have 23 teachers. Back then I started out with 2, and I had more. So they came, I paid for their training. They never finished it, they left. Okay, hired another one. So I'm losing staff. I have a huge turnaround. I got to train them again. I got to invest in their time and find, vet and pay for their training again, because I cannot just, take the training from the first teacher and then say, here, you pick up from where the other one left off. That's not how it works. So, every time I have more money to invest in that new teacher. And this happened over and over and over. And the first 3 years, I'm like, you guys are dummies. You don't know an opportunity when you see one. What happens when you start pointing fingers? 1, 2, 3 are actually pointing back at you. Took me a while. I finally said, what is the freaking common denominator here? Why I get great staff and then they leave? Where do they not see? Oh, wait, it has nothing to do with them. Where am I missing the boat? Where do I need to tap into that pie chart of, I don't know what I don't know yet? Because I just met them with my big energy, with my cocky German attitude. Where I'm at, big visionary. Teachers are very nurturing and very knowledgeable. And I just kind of bulldoze over their personality types. And they were enthralled in the beginning, but then when they continue working with me, they're like, I can't handle this. Like, this is not for me. This is not good. Right? And that was a bitter pill to swallow. And that's when I learned about NLP. And I said, I want to learn more about myself, my own personality, so then I can become better in meeting people where they're at. And that changed everything. That was like a 360. That was the beginning of that journey.
Wow.
And then I took a bunch of, a bunch of courses, a very nice luxury car worth of courses.
Yeah, you and me both. Yeah, I got a couple of Ferraris and a couple of Lamborghinis and a few vacation homes in my brain from all the education I've put in there. So, and I'm really grateful for it.
And it's worth every penny.
Absolutely, and I would do it again.
Yep.
I would just probably start sooner. That's all. I'd pay attention a little quicker. I did not enjoy school at all, and I was so bored all the time, and I was frustrated. And only a couple of teachers actually really got me. I had a teacher in sixth grade. Like, we had this thing, the student of the month, and like they pick a boy and a girl. And one of my teachers, the few that actually liked me, and I was a good student. I just had a lot of energy, so I wouldn't sit still. And she nominated me for the student of the month. And then another one of my teachers who did not care for my way of being, she told me this. She said this to a 12-year-old. She goes, hey, I saw Mrs. Blank, nominated you for the student of the month. I laughed in her face and told her you were the worst student I have and possibly ever. And I still remember that. I'm like 12 years old. I can't believe you just said that to me. And I don't think I responded, but I'm like, man, wow.
And look at the impact it had to this day.
Yeah, I've worked on letting that go recently, actually, because I was thinking about it and I got a little upset. I'm like, wow, I'm still holding on to that stuff, And so I really, praying for her and a lot of forgiveness for myself, holding that on, that judgment, that I made about her. And man, we're all a work in progress. And obviously she wasn't in a healthy place, but the adults, man, we have responsibility, especially when we're around little people.
That's exactly my point. That is exactly my point. And, I pour into our staff, I pour into the teachers, because if they say stuff like that to our kids, that doesn't fly on my watch. It's toxic. They already hear some of that stuff at home, that's hard, right? And everyone, I think, as a human, we have a responsibility and also an opportunity to really make a change in children's lives. And if it's just one person, right?
Yeah. And you're going to affect more than that, because some kid's going to see you somewhere in a store, the way that you talk to your friends, to your mom, to whoever you're with, or even them, and just like, man, I remember interactions with adults that I saw one time in my life that had a really positive impact on me because, they were like showing up like pure love. And like, I didn't know what I was seeing, but I knew I was like, that's how I want to be, because that's the truth. Right. And, it's so crucial that, we know how to show up consistently in a way that's, promoting others' growth. And that's the whole point, right? To grow and to give it all away. And so we don't need to make it
Yeah.
complicated.
And I love the growth part, right? And there's a tenacity in growth. And there's one law of NLP is know what you want. So where do you want to grow to?
Yeah.
And having, here in Atlanta, we have these axe throwing places. It's like, I like to call them darts on steroids, where you throw like an axe towards a target.
Yeah. And a lot of people do it while they're
drinking. I haven't done it because I'm not a good idea. I'm just terrified, right? But that's, a figurative, okay, this German girl, just what I'm at is how we go about in life. We go around with this idea in our head, AKA an axe, and then we just throw it somewhere. It's like, it'll stick somewhere. That's scary. But that's how a lot of people go about life. And then they just throw it somewhere. Know what is it that you desire to have and how is it a win-win-win, right? It's nice to have, with my company, I want to make $5 million and buy a jet and buy the yacht and do this. And I mean, with $5 million, you can't buy a yacht, but
you're not going to get much of a jet
they
or a yacht.
No, nothing. Not the jet, not the yacht, put a few more zeros on there.
Jeff Bezos' garage sale. Maybe, I don't know.
So the know what is it that you desire and who else from that result benefits. If it's only you, screw it. Then it's just ego. It's like, I want to have this. I want to have this money. I want to have this jet. I want to have this blah, fill in the blank. But if you say, okay, I win in, however you make money, I win when I make that sale. And the person that I'm selling to actually wins too. I am the solution to their problem. I meet the needs that they are looking for. Now it's a win-win. And I add the third win. Who else wins? The family, the community, the fill in the blanks. Who else? What's the greater win in that? Now it becomes sustainable. Now it becomes something even greater than you and I. And that's true growth in my view.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, so many people get lost in the first part of that, just knowing what they want. And, if you ask people that question, you get a blank stare. Like, what do you mean want for dinner? Or what are we talking about here? Like, what do you want? What do you want to create? What do you want in a life? How do you want to
contribute? They don't even know where they want to go for dinner. We can.
Yeah, I don't ever know where I want to go. I know I'm hungry, but I never know where I want to go, right? Like, everybody's had that conversation with the spouse. Like, I don't care. And then you name like 5 places. Like, well, I don't want that. I know what I don't want. I just don't know what I do want. Yeah. But I love like the way that you said the win-win.
Which is a great place to start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, we got a little lag there. But yeah, that is a great place to start because it's contrast, right? Contrast gives us clarity. It's like, figuring out what we don't want is at least eliminating, things, and it gives us somewhere to go. Really cool. All right. I need to protect your time, though. I'm going to go into the fire round here. We've got a few questions at the end that I like to ask everybody. And so just quick questions, quick answer, cool. And then you're on your way. So first question is, what could I have asked you? What could I have asked you that I didn't, that you'd like to talk about?
Where I was brought up.
Where were you brought up?
I was brought up in a 600 people village, surrounded by beautiful vineyards outside of Stuttgart, Germany.
Well, that sounds really nice. What's one message if you
could get? I couldn't wait to get the heck out of there.
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny how that works, right? You can be born in the most amazing place. You're like, all right, what's next? Oh, okay. What if you could get one message out to everybody in the world, what would that be?
Be you. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. What's a favorite book of yours to read, recommend, or give away?
The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, definitely read and apply. That one's so powerful. I just reread that a couple of years ago. Gosh, it's so good. It's better every time I've read that too. Okay, all right, we're here on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. So, what does freedom mean to you?
What does freedom mean to me? I just got back from 6 weeks in Europe with my daughter, who's 16 and about to, one more year in high school, to go and travel throughout Europe and show her all the cool places and do the things that we haven't done yet. And having the ability, the freedom to actually do that and not be bound to a job or a house or a dog or anything like that. And I have all of that.
That's why you have a husband, right? He can take care of that stuff when you go world traveling. And to keep you humble, right? That's those two. That's what our spouses do. They keep us humble and they take care of us. All right, where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
So you can either Google me. There's only one Brigitta Hoeferle in the whole wide world. Brigitta, Brigitta Hoeferle, or even better and more efficient is centerofnlp.com. Center of NLP, neurolinguisticprogramming.com.
Okay, cool. And we'll put that in the show notes, of course. So if anybody wants to find it there, it'll be there. I would definitely connect with Brigitta if I was you guys, man. She's brilliant. And she's going to shoot you straight. I can tell you that much. So really cool. Really enjoyed learning from you. And thanks for sharing your time and your genius with us today on the show. Thanks for being here.
Things for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Well, all righty, you guys. Thanks for being here till the end. If you made it this far through the podcast, we are eternally grateful for you listening, and maybe share it with somebody you think that would benefit from hearing what you just heard. See you next time.